Tycoon mocked Waitress. What he discovered about her hidden talent in just 3 minutes was amazing. Jessica pushed through the diner's swinging doors, her apron already stained with coffee and grease from the morning rush. It was another day in the small Midwestern town where she spent her nights dreaming of something more than serving up burgers and fries. Since her father passed away, she had been juggling shifts, the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her like a heavy fog. With her mother barely able to get out of bed and her younger brother counting on her, the thought of slipping up for even a moment terrified her. Each shift felt like a relentless cycle of monotony, yet Jessica clung to the values of hard work and family ingrained in her since childhood. On this particular afternoon, the diner buzzed with the usual din, warm laughter mingling with the persistent clinking of dishes. Then the atmosphere shifted as the door swung open with a dramatic flourish. In walked Mark, the wealthiest man in town, known less for his personality and more for his contempt for the working class. With designer shades and an air of entitlement, he looked around the diner dismissively, wrinkling his nose at the decor as if the scent of syrup offended him. "This place," he scoffed, grabbing a menu with a disdainful flick. "I only experience life's best, and clearly this isn't it." Tension rippled among the regulars. Jessica felt it too, tightening her chest. She approached his table, fully aware of the weight his words carried, but she knew she had to maintain her composure, armed with her practiced smile. "Can I get you coffee, sir?" Her voice gave nothing away, even as her heart raced. Just as the air turned thick with discomfort, a table of local patrons broke into an impromptu karaoke session, filling the diner with unexpected cheer. Jessica's pulse quickened, not just from the unexpected joy, but from a familiar longing. Singing had always burned within her, but her self-doubt kept her shackled. "Come on, someone take the stage," Mark called out, his voice dripping with challenge. Silence fell heavily. Everyone exchanged nervous glances, their voices extinguished by his arrogance. Jessica felt that familiar surge of fear, the whispers of enoughness creeping back. She hesitated. But then something snapped inside her. She straightened and stepped forward, heart thudding wildly. The mic felt cold and foreign in her hand. The room remained quiet, anticipation thick enough to slice. "What have I got to lose?" she thought, inhaling deeply. As the first notes pulsed through the speakers, her nerves started to unravel. She lost herself in the melody, pouring everything she felt into each lyric. For those 3 minutes, the diner transformed, the mundane twisting into magic. Mark's arrogance began to falter. He leaned forward, his expression shifting from sarcasm to something resembling awe. The crowd erupted around her, and as the last note faded, applause thundered like a long-awaited storm. Mark stared, bewildered, as Jessica wiped her brow, exhilaration washing over her. Yet before they could fully bask in the moment, the manager rushed over, urgency etched across his face as he whispered something in Jessica's ear. Panic bubbled within her. Would she be able to keep this job? Could she share this part of herself without fear of judgment? Mark observed something simmering beneath his skin. Caught at the edge of a precipice, Jessica wiped away the remnants of her performance, but a dark cloud of uncertainty loomed large. She had revealed a piece of herself, but could she trust someone like him? Meanwhile, Mark grappled with a growing sense of responsibility. This one moment had cracked open a realization about her life beyond the diner. His choices hung heavily in the balance. The vibration of unanswered questions coursed through the diner, smothering them in suspense. Their worlds dramatically collided, leaving both of them gazing into the vast chasm of possibility and dread, wondering if they could cross it together. As the applause subsided, Jessica's heart sank beneath the weight of looming uncertainty. The thrill of performance began to fade, replaced with the sharp sting of what could be lost. The manager's hurried whispers echoed in her mind. "If you do that again, it could cost you your job." The words were a chilling reminder of her precarious balance between aspiration and obligation. Still, something inside her shifted. For so long she had suffocated beneath the expectations of her family, their collective grief becoming a suffocating blanket. But after those 3 minutes under the spotlight, Jessica felt a tiny flicker of rebellion ignite, a desire to explore what lay beyond the confines of the diner and her caretaking role. Mark, too, was caught in an internal storm. He had entered the diner, dismissive of its charm, prepared to scoff at the downtrodden. Yet as Jessica sang, the walls of his expectations crumbled. He had viewed her world through a lens of privilege and arrogance. Now he was faced with her raw talent, a vivid insight into the depths of human experience he had always chosen to ignore. As plates continued to clatter and the diner resumed its routine, Jessica's mind raced through possibilities. What if she could hone her skills, turn her passion for singing into something viable? Could she dare to dream outside the rigid structures that defined her life? Those questions lingered, taunting her with an alluring sense of freedom. Mark glanced around,
crystallizing in his mind what he had witnessed. It wasn't merely a performance, it was a revelation. Deep within, he wrestled with an uncomfortable recognition. Jessica was not simply a waitress in a diner, she was an artist, and he was on the brink of an epiphany about his own role in the world. As he gathered his wits, a plan began to form.
He couldn't just observe her talent and walk away unscathed by the experience. He had to act. "Jessica," he called, his voice slicing through the ambient noise. She turned reluctantly, her heart racing with equal parts fear and anticipation. "Have you ever thought about pursuing music professionally?" The question took her by surprise. "Me? No, she stammered, uncertain how to convey her unacknowledged dreams. "Why not?" He was relentless, his voice steady and earnest. "You've got something special, something that could inspire people." His words struck her like an electric current, jolting her into realization. Maybe she could think beyond the diner, beyond her responsibilities. But with hope came a sudden surge of dread. This transition would not come without sacrifices. Could she step into the unknown? "I wouldn't even know where to start," she replied, struggling against the chains of doubt. "Let's work through it." Mark leaned closer, the sincerity in his eyes pulling her in. "I can help you find a path. You deserve more than this," he said, motioning to the diner around them. Jessica hesitated, torn between the pull of opportunity and the safeguards of her current life. The thought of taking a step forward filled her with equal parts excitement and terror. She couldn't disregard her family's needs. They were her reality. The dialogue spun in her head, an internal clash between ambition and obligation. What would pursuing her passion mean for her family? What if she failed? What if she succeeded? Each question curled through her thoughts, a relentless echo pushing her toward a decision. "I'll think about it," she finally said, her voice shaking slightly as she stepped back, both thrilled and terrified by her own response. As Mark's expression shifted to one of understanding, the air shifted again, laden with potential paths that could stretch far beyond this diner. Both were left at a crossroads of their own making, driven by a newfound desire to challenge the limits of their current lives. As they parted ways for the night, the hunger for more crept into Jessica's thoughts. The seductive pull of music and ambition began weaving itself through her heart, but the fear of failing weighed heavily on her shoulders. In that moment, it became clear. She stood at the precipice of a pivotal decision. The stage had been set, but would she take the leap? As she closed her eyes, the echoes of her own voice lingered. It beckoned her forward, simultaneous hope and trepidation swirling within. The journey awaited. But would she summon the courage to step toward it?
The questions gnawed at her, but beneath them lay a quiet determination brewing, something she hadn't felt in years. She glanced at the cracked mirror over her dresser, the surface reflecting a girl caught in the swirl of conflicting identities, the dutiful daughter, the waitress who sang for fleeting moments of joy, and the artist she dared not acknowledge. What if she could reconcile these parts of herself into a singular force? The idea sent a thrill through her, an exhilarating yet terrifying prospect. Tuning out her surroundings, Jessica allowed herself a moment of honesty. With every spontaneous note that had escaped her lips, she had tasted freedom, an echo of what could be. Mark's question lingered with her, resonating deeper than she initially realized. Could she pursue music beyond the four walls of the diner? As dawn broke, illuminating her room, Jessica found herself at a crossroads. The bitterness of obligation was a bitter pill, but a glimmer of hope shimmered beneath its surface. What if she could break free from the confines of the diner? What if she could be more than someone else's expectation? She picked up her guitar, a dusty relic acquired from an old friend. The strings felt foreign beneath her fingers, the familiar chords a distant memory, but she proceeded to strum. Each note transported her back to the stage, back to the applause. The sound enveloped her, and she closed her eyes, letting herself imagine the echo of a crowd that truly recognized her as an artist. She spent hours in this cocoon of creation, feeling the mechanics of music begin to flow back within her. Each chord shaped her resolve, as the melodies merged with her burgeoning aspirations. If she could just build a repertoire, perhaps she would find a way to unite her family's obligations with her own dreams. Jessica reached for her phone with shaky hands, contemplating Mark's offer. He had shown her glimpses of a path she hadn't dared to imagine. Would he still be willing to help her? With a few deep breaths, she texted him, her heart racing at the boldness of her decision. "I've been thinking about what you said. Can we talk?"
The response came almost immediately, his enthusiasm palpable through the screen. Absolutely. Tomorrow? Tomorrow. The word echoed in her mind, a heartbeat pulsing with expectations. The gravity of that moment weighed heavily on her shoulders, but excitement built within as well. She would meet him, discuss the possibility of crafting a future that intertwined her responsibilities and her passions. Yet as she prepared for bed that night, doubts crept in again. What if this was a foolish endeavor? Could she truly summon enough strength to battle the reaction of her family if her aspirations took her away from them? The thought alone made her chest tighten with anxiety. She drifted to sleep, her dreams a tumult of fears and hopes, all tangled within the rhythms of her heart.
Would pursuing her dreams mean abandoning those she loved? Or could it forge a new identity powerful enough to bring them all along? In the quiet of the night, beneath blankets heavy with uncertainty, a single question lingered in the shadows. What would she discover about herself when the dawn of possibility broke? As morning light crept in, she resolved to face what lay ahead. Ready or not, she would confront the imminent challenge that awaited in the conversation with Mark, as it promised to be the defining step towards unlocking her potential. Would she find the courage to embrace the artist within, or would fear remain her steadfast companion? Jessica's heartbeat thrummed in her chest as she stood in front of the mirror, spray of early morning light cascading through the window. The reflection highlighted the subtle shadows under her eyes, the remnants of sleepless contemplation. Today was pivotal. It was a day she had both longed for and dread. As she straightened her posture, she could almost sense the anticipation buzzing in the air around her, mingled with an undercurrent of trepidation. With the guitar slung across her back and fresh determination knitted into the fabric of her being, Jessica stepped into the world outside her room. Each step felt heavier than the last, weighted with the enormity of her choice to pursue music. The world felt indifferent around her, yet within, a storm brewed as she navigated through her routine. The diner loomed ahead, its neon lights dim and flickering, a symbol of her current existence. The hours dragged on. Each plate she delivered and every customer interaction felt like echoes from an old life, a life that held her captive. During brief moments of solitude, she let her mind wander to thoughts about the conversation with Mark. What if he saw through her facade? What if he pushed her towards something she wasn't ready for? Then again, what if he believed in her? That thought pierced her anxiety like a ray of sunlight, igniting a flicker of hope. The workday unfolded, an interminable loop of mundane tasks punctuated by occasional bursts of laughter and camaraderie with fellow colleagues. Yet now more than ever, she felt like an outsider within her own life, her vision of music dancing just beyond her reach. Finally, the clock struck 5, and her shift came to an end. Jessica's stomach fluttered with a blend of nerves and excitement as she made her way to the coffee shop where Mark had suggested they meet. The streets felt alive, pulsating with energy, and as she entered the cafe, she spotted him immediately, his coffee cup steaming as he stared intently at his phone. "Hey," she greeted, her voice a touch more high-pitched than she intended. He looked up, a smile breaking across his face, genuine and infectious. "You made it. I've been looking forward to this." They settled into a small corner booth, and as Mark began murmuring about his ideas, Jessica listened intently, her heart still racing with the thrill of being acknowledged. He shared his vision of artists finding their voices, connecting with their audiences on a deeper level. It felt like everything she craved, but the shadow of doubt hovered, whispering caution. "I had a thought," he said, leaning forward. "How about a quick jam session? Just the two of us. We can record it and see what we come up with. No pressure, just a chance to create." Her breath caught. The suggestion was both thrilling and daunting, stirring a potent mix of excitement and fear. Right now? Why not? His eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "I've got my guitar in the car." "Okay, let's try it," she said, every syllable craving an anchor of confidence. They walked to the nearby park, the afternoon sun warm on their faces. As they settled down on a bench, Mark pulled out his guitar and handed it to her. It felt like a lifeline, the familiar wood cool against her skin. Jessica strummed hesitantly at first, each note tentative. Yet as she settled into the chords, something shifted. The music flowed, her fingers moving with newfound freedom. With Mark harmonizing softly beside her, the chaos of her thoughts began to dissolve with every note. Suddenly she hit a chord that resonated deep within her. It felt euphoric, the sensation of bridging barriers, of expressing emotions she had kept locked away. She opened her eyes, meeting Mark's gaze. The astonishment in his expression revealed a profound realization. She was more than a waitress. She was a musician. As the last echo lingered in the air, Jessica caught her breath, the world around them fading in importance. In that fleeting moment, she grasped something of immense worth, her potential. Mark leaned closer, the surprise shifting to admiration. "Wow, Jessica, you've got something special. We need to explore this." Her heart raced, not just from exhilaration, but from a newfound sense of purpose. With that acknowledgement of her talent, another revelation dawned.
Would she allow herself to forge boldly into uncertainty or hold back yet again in fear? As she processed this reality, another possibility swirled in her mind. Maybe she could explore music without losing herself in the process. Perhaps she could navigate both worlds, creating a balance between her aspirations and obligations. Jessica formulated a plan that grew more robust with every fleeting thought. Yet standing at this new threshold, she faced an unforeseen dilemma: how to communicate this newfound vigor to her family, knowing their expectations loomed large. In a moment of clarity, she realized she was on the brink of transformation, but the risk was daunting. Could she take them along on this journey of self-discovery, or would she have to choose between them and her dreams?
This new understanding tightened her chest once again as questions resonated louder than answers. The possibilities before her were intoxicating, but so was the fear of what lay ahead. Would she find the resolve to intertwine both parts of her life, or would the chasm between them remain unbridgeable? With the weight of the future pressing upon her, she knew one thing: the next step she took would define her not just as an artist, but as Jessica. The moment of truth would soon arrive. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows over the park as Jessica and Mark wrapped up their impromptu jam session. The melody still danced in the air, leaving her breathless and exhilarated. However, the moment she stepped away from the music, reality seeped back in. The weight of her family's expectations clung to her like an unwanted cloak, and she felt every layer tighten around her. Walking home, she replayed the experience over and over. Mark's enthusiasm buzzed in her mind, echoing back to her in the form of encouragement, but it was soon overshadowed by a flicker of doubt. How could she pursue this path without tearing apart the delicate fabric of her family relationships? Every chord she had struck that day felt like a promise to herself, but also a betrayal to her family. In the following days, the dilemma only grew more oppressive. Her shifts at the diner felt longer, her interactions more draining. Each time she cleared a table, washed a dish, or took an order, the mundane tasks served as a reminder of the life she lived far removed from her musical aspirations. The unfamiliarity of this feeling, a slow churn of frustration and ambition, began to gnaw at her. During her break at the diner, Jessica picked up her phone to text Mark. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. Would it sound desperate if she suggested more sessions? What would he think? Would he eventually realize that she was out of her depth? She did text him, her heart racing, but the message was laced with self-doubt. "I had a great time jamming the other day. Thanks for encouraging me." His response was swift and buoyant. "You were amazing. Let's set up another session soon. How about we prepare a song for the next one?" That simple suggestion sent a jolt through her. She needed to seize this opportunity, to buckle down and really explore her potential. But shadows of her family's doubts loomed larger in her mind. Would they understand? Could she balance her newfound musical ambition with what they expected of her? A stable job, a predictable life? As the week progressed, Jess spent her evenings immersed in songwriting. She scribbled lyrics that exploded from her heart, raw and genuine. Each line served as a cathartic release, a way of articulating the conflict she felt between pursuing her passion and adhering to her familial obligations. Yet with every word, she felt empowered. Might she actually have something to say? Torn between her secret ambitions and the rigid structure of her responsibilities, she finally decided to share with her family. As she prepared for dinner one evening, a sense of dread gripped her. What if they reacted poorly? What if she disappointed them even more by pursuing music? Dinner was awkward, the tension palpable as she wrestled with her words. Finally, she cleared her throat and said, "Mom, Dad, I want to talk about something important." They paused, forks halting midair, their eyes locked onto her with a mix of curiosity and concern. "I want to pursue music. I've been working on some songs, and I think I have something to offer." Silence enveloped the room like a shroud. She felt her heart pounding in her chest, each beat an echo of their collective expectations. Her mother exchanged glances with her father before speaking. "Jessica, this is a difficult industry. What about your job? Have you even given it a second thought?" Her heart sank. Was this it? A wall built on worry and practicality? "I'm not abandoning anything. I just want to explore this. I need to know if I can do it," she replied, voice trembling with an intensity she didn't initially intend. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," her father said, his tone cautious yet firm. "Stability should come first." A knot formed in her stomach. Would she forever be relegated to living a life of expectations rather than authenticity? Jessica was left reeling, staring at the remnants of dinner laid before her. The food turned cold as she wrestled with her newfound courage versus the impending rejection of her dreams. She now faced a critical juncture.
Would the need to conform to her family's vision suffocate her aspiration, or could she find a way to keep them close while pursuing her passion? As uncertainty washed over her, Jessica's resolve deepened. This was only the beginning of her battle, and she needed to carve her path forward, one that was uniquely hers. But deep within, another question lurked. Could she brave their disapproval while also nurturing the spark ignited by Mark? That night, she found herself wide awake, the shadows of doubt creeping in. The fork in the road had appeared. Which direction would she choose? What awaited her on the other side? The morning light seeped through the curtains, illuminating Jessica's room scattered with crumpled sheets of lyrics. Each word felt like a fragment of her soul laid bare, a testament to her struggle. As the sun bathed the walls in warmth, she reluctantly pulled herself from the confines of her bed, her internal battle still raging. Today was critical. After her family's reaction, Jessica determined that she couldn't let their anxieties dictate her path. If she was to pursue music, she needed to believe it was possible. She dressed with purpose, donning her favorite vintage band tee, a small act of rebellion, before heading to the diner.
During her shift, the chatter felt muffled, her mind echoing with melodies and lyrics rather than the mundane rhythm of customer orders and dishwashing. She found herself dwelling on Mark's enthusiastic response, feeling buoyed yet anxious about the next jam session. Did she have what it took to match his energy and skill? As the clock ticked toward her break, she reflected on the earlier conversation with her parents, the way their concern had seeped into her confidence. But doubt transformed into a burning desire for independence. She knew she had to channel her emotions into something productive. Possibilities swirled in her mind, all tied to that elusive connection between her and the music. Once she clocked out, she met Mark at a nearby cafe. Instant relief flooded her as his familiar smile greeted her, dispelling the anxiety that had clung to her all day. They settled at a small table in a corner, the atmosphere infusing her with renewed energy. "You ready to make some serious noise?" Mark grinned. Jessica laughed, feeling a spark ignite within her. More than ever. As they sipped coffee, they traded stories about their musical influences, delving deeper than ever before. Mark spoke of artists who had inspired him, drawing parallels to Jessica's own fledgling journey. With each story, Jessica felt a bridge forming, spanned not by family expectations, but by passion and possibility. "Let's work on that song of yours," he suggested, "the one you were writing." A rush of excitement surged through her. They retreated to an empty rehearsal space, equipped with nothing but a battered piano and a few scattered instruments. She took a deep breath, the scent of wood and old vinyl scratching at her nerves. With her heart pounding, she began to play a few chords that had spent too long hidden inside her. As the notes cascaded through the air, Jessica's inhibitions began to dissolve. Mark listened intently, his presence calming yet charged with motivation. Once she finished the melody, there was a beat of silence before Mark exclaimed, "Jessica, that was incredible. You can really capture emotion." For the first time, his words didn't just fade into the background. They resonated deep within, kindling the light of self-belief she desperately needed. They spent hours refining her song, sweaty and exhausted, but ultimately, she felt liberated. Each riff she played was another step toward ownership of her dreams, a catharsis that drowned out the noise of familial expectations. As they concluded the session, Jessica found herself standing in the dappled afternoon light, feeling anew. This journey was just beginning, and she could sense the contours of her true self starting to emerge. However, as she walked home, another worry crept in. Would her family's doubts grow sharper with every success? Would she risk their acceptance by embracing her music? That night, as she sat alone, a stack of lyrics lay beside her like unspoken promises. There was no turning back. She had committed to the journey, and with each step, she feared what might fester if she didn't confront her family again. The time had come to face their apprehensions more directly, but could she challenge them without losing herself in the process? What truths awaited her in that conversation? As the sun set again, the questions danced around her thoughts like echoes, waiting for her to find the courage to answer them. Jessica's heart raced as she paced her room, ruminating on the conversation she needed to initiate with her parents. Coping with their expectations had become an exercise in frustration and fear, a constricting cloak that threatened to crush her aspirations. The light from the bedside lamp cast long shadows across her scattered lyrics, each one a testament to resilience, yet undeniably representative of conflict. The following morning she returned to the diner, but this time her mind was resolute. Today wasn't just about serving coffee or clearing dishes, it was about gathering the courage to stand her ground.
With each customer that walked in, her resolve crystallized further. Could she explain to them why music was more than just a hobby? It was her identity. During a lull between the breakfast rush and the lunch crowd, Jessica wiped down a table, her thoughts swirling like an uncontained tempest. How could she articulate the depth of her passion and the urgency of her dreams? Was it even possible to convey that her music was as essential to her as air? Mark's words echoed in her mind, reminding her that opportunities often arose from uncomfortable conversations. Later that day, she sat in the break room, her phone vibrating with a text from Mark. "Hey, ready for tonight? I can't wait to hear how you're feeling. Bring your new song." His words were both comforting and intimidating. What if she told her family she was serious about music, only to falter under their skepticism? Doubts rolled in like waves crashing onto the shore, but if the music kept her afloat, maybe it was time she took control of the narrative. As the day wore on, the weight of her unspoken fears pressed heavily on her chest. Each ping from her phone felt like a countdown to the conversation she knew she must have. Jessica closed her eyes and envisioned the moment. She could see her father's furrowed brow, her mother's eyes wide with apprehension. But alongside that image, she also imagined their understanding, acceptance blooming like spring flowers after a long winter. When she finally clocked out, the sun hung low in the sky, streaking the horizon with fiery oranges and deep purples. Jessica drove home in a daze, tapping her fingers on the steering wheel in rhythm to the melodies whirling in her mind. The day's preparations took on new meaning. They were components to crafting an argument as much as they were steps toward her dreams.
The dinner table was set, the simmering pot of her mother's favorite stew wafting scents of nostalgia and safety. But it was now tinged with an anxious anticipation. After sharing a few benign stories about her day, Jessica felt her stomach twist. She needed to steer the conversation. "Mom? Dad? I want to talk about something important." Their expressions shifted, a blend of expectation and caution washing over them. She hesitated, searching for the right words to bridge the gap of understanding. "The music I've been working on isn't just a phase. It's who I am. Mark believes in me. I want to pursue it." A tense silence enveloped the room, and Jessica braced herself for their reactions, like a seasoned performer awaiting feedback. Would this be another setback, or could she finally reveal her authentic self? Every part of her quaked with potential vulnerability, waiting at the threshold. As her father shifted in his chair, Jessica realized the moment had arrived. She had officially crossed the line into confrontation. Would acceptance surface, or would she face the heartache of disbelief once more? Tension simmered in the air as she awaited their response, her heart pounding louder than the impending storm of emotions. As Jessica sat at the table, the weight of her revelation hung heavily in the air. Her father's brow furrowed deeper, lips pressing into a thin line, while her mother's hands trembled slightly in her lap. The silence felt oppressive, suffocating almost. Jessica's heart raced. This was the moment she had rehearsed in her mind 1,000 times, yet real-life stakes felt so much more daunting. "You want to pursue music?" Her father finally broke the stillness, his voice a mixture of incredulity and concern. "Have you thought this through? Do you really believe you can make a living?" Jessica took a deep breath, grounding herself. "I have thought about it, Dad. I know it won't be easy, but I can't ignore this part of me any longer. Music is my life." Her mother's eyes widened, shimmering with unshed tears. "Sweetheart, we just want what's best for you. Music can be so unpredictable. What if it doesn't work out?" The sting of concern morphed into fuel for Jessica's determination. "But what if it does work out? What if I never try and regret it for the rest of my life? I want to challenge myself. I want to see how far I can go." Her father leaned back, arms crossed over his chest. "It's not just about your talent, Jess. There are practical realities. Do you have a plan? A safety net?" The question pierced through her resolve. She hadn't thought beyond the spark of inspiration that ignited her dreams. As visions of late nights at the diner flashed before her eyes, the mundane routine felt suffocating now. But in their skepticism lay a challenge. Perhaps it was time to outline a strategy. I could start performing at open mics," she stuttered, the seed of an idea germinating amidst the doubt. "I could create a following."
"Mark can help me with that. I'll set achievable goals. I will keep my job until I'm stable." Jessica noticed a glimmer of hesitancy in her father's expression. Perhaps the prospect of a plan instilled a flicker of hope. Yet, at that moment, doubt still picked at the fringes of her resolve, threatening to unhinge everything she had just summoned. Even if I need to take a detour and work on my craft, I'll do it, she asserted. Music is where my heart is, and I need your support. I'm asking you to believe in me, just this once. The corner of her father's mouth quirked up ever so slightly, though his gaze remained serious. Support comes from trust, Jess. But, trust is built on proof. If you're going to pursue this, he gestured emphatically, you need to do it right. You need to show us that you're serious. Jessica seized that moment, emboldened by the challenge rather than deterred. Then I will. I'll show you. You'll see how dedicated I am. That night, after her parents had retreated into contemplation, Jessica stood in her room, emotions swirling, a contradictory mix of exhilaration and fear. Exhilaration, because she finally communicated her desires. Fear, because the road ahead was laden with uncertainties. But something had shifted within her. She felt a newfound determination swell in her chest. No longer tethered by doubt, she began crafting a plan to launch her music career, searching for venues and opportunities. Even as she sat at her desk with a pen gripping her fingers, the blank page stared back in defiance. What name would she go by? Which songs should she feature? Questions unfolded like stars in her mind, each one a beacon guiding her steps. The hum of the diner's old neon sign resounded in her ears. It had become both a reminder of where she started and the signal for where she needed to go. But tomorrow would be an exploration of uncharted territory. The true test would be stepping onto that stage at open mic night, a trial by fire for her ambitions. But just as doubts began to creep in again, her phone chimed with a message from Mark. Tonight will be great for you. You're ready. Can't wait to see you shine. With renewed purpose, she typed back, let's make it happen. The journey was only beginning, and her transformation loomed just ahead. The moment of truth was near. She needed to confront not just her fears, but also her ability to create something extraordinary. What awaited her on that stage could alter everything. Would it be the affirmation she had been yearning for, or a lesson shrouded in disappointment? The following day felt heavy with anticipation. Jessica awoke with a knot in her stomach, her reflection staring back from the mirror, confrontational and demanding. She observed the shadows beneath her eyes, evidence of a restless night spent wrestling with her thoughts.
Today was no longer about rehearsing in her mind. It was about stepping onto that stage, allowing her true self to emerge into the world. Once at the diner, the familiar sounds of clinking dishes and murmured conversations wrapped around her like an old comforting blanket, yet she felt strangely alienated. Each moment drew her closer to the evening's confrontation with her dreams. Her shifts were mechanical now, each interaction with customers marked by an undercurrent of restlessness. While she poured coffee and brought out plates of food, her mind was occupied with notes for songs she had scribbled hastily in her notepad. Jess couldn't shake a creeping sense of doubt that questioned her resolve. What if she floundered in front of an audience? What if the spotlight revealed inadequacies she had worked so hard to mask? But then, the resolve that ignited during her conversation with her parents swelled within her again. This was her dream, and the only path to fulfillment lay in risk. At her break, Jessica stared at the notepad she'd carried everywhere, a tangible piece of her ambitions. Quickly, she flipped through the pages filled with lyrics, melodies, and ideas. Each word represented a piece of her spirit. She needed to select the perfect song, one that would not only showcase her voice, but also her story. As she sat, scanning the final choices, her phone buzzed again, an encouraging message from Mark. You're gonna rock it. Just remember, it's your voice. Own it. A smile crept in, a reminder of the support she had, the lifeline keeping her afloat amidst turbulent thoughts. As evening approached, Jessica changed into an outfit she had carefully curated, a fitted top that made her feel confident, and a pair of jeans that framed her figure just right. Looking in the mirror before leaving the house, she whispered her mantra, "You belong here." With each word, she felt her fear diminish, morphing into something more usable: purpose. The venue loomed ahead, dimly lit, pulsing with energy and laughter. Mark was already there and spotted her as she hesitated by the entrance. "Hey, don't overthink it. Just perform." His confidence in her was a tether pulling her closer to her new reality. Swallowing her anxiety, Jessica stepped in. The stage was small, and the microphone seemed to dwarf her. She watched as performers before her poured their souls into their songs, securing her premonition that not all was polished and perfect.
Yet each musician contributed honesty. Their expressions were raw, real, and utterly captivating. This was the energy she craved. When her name was called, her heart raced anew. She stepped up to the mic, feeling each heartbeat echo, a reminder of what she stood to gain and what she had risked to be there. As she took a deep breath, she recalled her father's advice, the need to prove her commitment to this path. With each chord strummed on her guitar, adrenaline surged through her.
She locked eyes with Mark in the crowd, feeling an unexpected surge of confidence. The first notes filled the air, reverberating off the walls, merging with the raw edge of her voice, a soulful resonance carrying her fears and hopes, transforming them into something audible. And just when she felt she was finding her rhythm, she noticed a figure in the audience, a man clad in a sharp suit, his expression one of amused skepticism. He laughed as she stumbled slightly over a chord, a smirk ghosting across his lips. For a split second, her confidence wavered. Anger bubbled beneath the surface. Who was he to mock her? The realization crystallized in her mind. She had something to prove, not just to herself, but to that man and anyone else who doubted her. As she pressed forward, every note she played became a declaration. The man's presence became insignificant against her growing resolve. The song crescendoed, becoming a testament of her journey, each word letting go of the burdens of doubt, revealing a deeper layer of the person she was beginning to embrace. With the final note, silence hovered for a heartbeat before the crowd erupted in applause. The mocker's expression had shifted, confusion replaced by intrigue, as he now sat straight and attentive. That shift thrilled her. Maybe, just maybe, she had turned that moment into something more than acceptance. She had sparked interest. But the true revelation felt buried yet unseen. Amidst the applause and exhilaration, Jessica caught herself wondering, who was this man unexpectedly captivated by her performance? What else was waiting in the shadows of this journey yet to be unveiled? With the prospect of new possibilities ahead, Jessica's thoughts raced. It was time to confront not only the critics, but the depths of her growing talent and emerging ambition. As Jessica stepped down from the stage, the applause still ringing in her ears, she felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. Every ounce of anxiety and doubt that had weighed heavily on her began to dissipate. Her performance had unleashed something powerful within her, a resilience she had only glimpsed before. This was not merely an act, it was an awakening. In the haze of exhilaration, she spotted Mark, his face beaming with pride, and that flicker of doubt within her began to extinguish entirely. He rushed to her side, enveloping her in an enthusiastic hug. "You were incredible, I told you. You lit the place up," he exclaimed. Her heart swelled at his genuine joy, realizing that this partnership was blossoming into something significant, both personally and professionally. Yet, before she could revel entirely in her success, the man who had mocked her earlier approached with a confident swagger. The skeptical smirk had faded, leaving behind an expression of curiosity. He extended his hand. "I'm Greg. I'd like to discuss your performance. You've got something unique." Jessica's initial response was one of guarded caution. She nodded slightly, intently considering the implication of his words. "Thank you," she managed, her voice steady, but an underlying thread of skepticism still lingered. "Seriously," he continued, unperturbed, "I see potential. The rawness of your performance captivated more than this crowd. It can resonate on a larger stage. I work in artist management, and I'm always on the lookout for fresh talent. Let's connect." The rush of his proposal hit her like a wave. An opportunity like this could catapult her dreams further than she had ever imagined, but the ghosts of doubt returned. Was this too good to be true? She locked eyes with Mark, who nodded encouragingly, reinforcing her growing confidence. "I'd love to talk," she replied, her voice carrying the weight of her conviction. As they exchanged contact details, Jessica felt the gravity of her decision intensifying. This wasn't just about the thrill of performance anymore. It was about solidifying her commitment to pursuing a future in music. With each passing moment, the mixture of fear and excitement morphed into something tangible. She envisioned a life intertwined with her passion, defying the expectations of those who had once held her back. The week that followed proved significant. Greg initiated a series of meetings to outline a plan for her career, targeted songs, promotions, and venues that could serve as stepping stones. Each conversation with him peeled back layers of self-doubt, and Jessica felt her vision crystallizing. She was no longer just a Waitress dreamer, but a burgeoning musician ready to embrace her identity fully.
Determined to balance her commitment to her music with her family obligations, Jessica approached her parents again. Armed with newfound proof of her dedication and the newfound connections she had made, she presented them with a concrete plan. "I'm not abandoning my responsibilities, but I want to try this," she explained earnestly. "I'll continue working at the diner while performing and building an audience. This is my dream, and I need your support." Her father's brow furrowed with skepticism as he listened, yet Jessica could sense a shift in his demeanor. The walls of apprehension were beginning to thaw. Her mother's eyes glimmered with pride. The proud realization of her child's fierce resolve crushed her earlier fears. "If you're committed to taking it seriously, we'll stand behind you," her father eventually agreed, his tone softer yet grounded in protection. "But remember, a dream needs nurturing." In that moment, Jessica felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude wash over her. She had not only confronted her family's expectations, but also become to carve out her identity as they stood by her side. Together, as she began to pursue opportunities that seemed unattainable a mere month ago, the profound connection to her music deepened. Each performance became a milestone, each song a testament to her evolution.
As gigs filled up and her confidence soared, the weight of her family obligations no longer felt like a burden, but a foundation that propelled her forward. After several weeks of practice and hard work, Jessica found herself back on that same stage, but this time under a different light. She was not just performing, she was showcasing a part of herself she had fought to embrace. The crowd around her pulsed with energy, and Mark stood in the front row, beaming with pride as he captured her performance on his phone. Every note rang out fiercely. Her newfound confidence radiated throughout each verse, echoing in the hearts of everyone who listened. As the applause erupted again, she absorbed every moment, swallowing her pride, elation, and unbreakable resolve. Mark approached her afterward, nearly shaking with excitement. "That was phenomenal! Keep this up and the sky is the limit." Jessica's heart soared higher than it ever had before. She was not merely chasing a dream, she was living it. The journey she embarked upon was not just about music. It was about self-acceptance, resilience, and unapologetically being true to her passion. At that moment, she knew without a shadow of a doubt, she had conquered. Now, it is your moment to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support personal journeys like Jessica's. Comment your reactions and theories about this inspiring conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering story. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel.